Chara would have been a perfect fit. A huge defense-first defenseman who could jar the puck loose and allow Ghost to skate out of the zone and work transition as he does so well. From the front office, I'm sure that we're going to hear whining that we need the cap space to sign Sanheim and Ellis and all these other players. Well, sometimes things don't go the way that you want. And I will give Fletcher credit that the moves that he makes, be it Hayes, be it Niskanen, have worked out pretty well. These players have been productive. They have helped the team dramatically. And, kudos for Fletcher to Fletcher for getting the right pieces that fit. That's not an easy task. Granted, I know I'm playing this from a rotisserie perspective, and Fletcher really needs to get these players to blend on the ice, which he's done splendidly. I think maybe a change in direction was needed here. Does the team have more assets with Ghost now gone, a second-round pick gone, and a seventh-round pick gone than they would, let's say, if you had traded Travis Sanheim, who was a restricted free agent? Now, there's nothing wrong with Sanheim. He was our second best defenseman last year, maybe even our best, and was playing with a really erratic and inconsistent Phil Myers, which probably did not help his game at all. But, you're trying to build value here. There would have been a pretty good trade market, I imagine, for someone like Sanheim. And maybe you make a bigger deal. Maybe you use that to clear cap space, grab draft picks, which are great because they take up absolutely zero cap space and can be handed out without any cap constraints as sweeteners to other teams. I don't know, maybe you use it to make a big deal to get a big-time defenseman. It's just, the thinking is too linear, and it's destructive in terms of what is left in the cupboard for the Flyers. And this, of course, this deal came on the heels of the expansion draft, where the Flyers really kind of dodged the bullet in the selection by the Kraken. No disrespect to Carson Twarynski, who may become a pretty good player. I liked him as a power forward. I really did. And I think he may wind up being a pretty productive NHL player. But I would have bet my firstborn that Gostisbehere would have been the guy that the Kraken had chosen. And they totally faked me out. If there is a silver lining for me, and being so wrong, however, is that it kind of shuts up the advanced metric crowd that thought the sun rose and set around Ghost. Now, I don't think that Ghost was so bad that you had to give up 2 picks to get him off your team. In fact, I think the Flyers probably, if they had traded Sanheim, could have rehabilitated him somewhat by giving him power play time and getting him a good right-handed, steady defenseman, of which there are a ton of in the free agent market. Of course, we're in salary cap hell again, thanks to the Fletcher. But in any case, I think that there was potential there. This was just Fletcher giving away value, and substantial value, for really no benefit or gain. This segues nicely into the next trade that the Flyers made. And it continues the theme of a bad week for the Corsi crowd Ghost lovers, because the Flyers traded Robert Haig, someone that most of the pro Ghost faction, the Corsi faction, really disliked. But they traded him for Rasmus Ristolainen, who they also disliked because, as bad of a Corsi metric as Haig may have put up, Ristolainen was even worse. So if we break down this trade, from my perspective, Haig was a decent, solid defender, not going to win the Norris. Left-handed, was relatively steady. He was not an elite defender, but he was decent. With the game on the line, a minute left, and the Flyers clinging to a 1-goal lead, he probably would not be my first choice to put out, but he wouldn't be my last either. And we'll see how that shapes up the rest of the season. Ristolainen, on the other hand, for those of you who have not seen him play, if you can imagine kind of a hybrid between Haig and Gudas, a right-handed version like Gudas was, that he is more of a physical player. He is thought of as pretty highly skilled. He, at one point, was, I think, the 8th overall pick, and they thought he was going to be a do-it-all defender in the vein of Victor Hedman type. And it hasn't turned out that way. He's kind of been plagued by some of the things that the Haig was plagued with early in his career, with making bad passes, defensive lapses, turnovers, things like that. Since then, Ristolainen has kind of calmed that down. He's typically not the primary puck distributor when he's out on the ice. He's kind of a secondary option in that scenario, but he is kind of the defensive stalwart now, and he is adequate at doing that. I wouldn't say he's elite. He's probably pretty good. So where he does have a trait that I particularly like, it is his kind of grit, if you will, the sandpaper part of him. Haig would protect teammates. It was kind of his teamly duty that, he wouldn't start any kind of mess, but if Konechny stuck his beak in somewhere and things got rough, Haig would come in and stand up for his teammate. It was almost a duty-bound type of thing. Ristolainen has some nasty in him, and I'm not sure if he'll stick up for teammates or not. I guess he probably would, but he likes to hit. Haig would go in and move people around, push people, give a shot if someone was taking liberties with one of his guys. Ristolainen will instigate this stuff. So that is a positive, and he is a right-handed defenseman, and it addresses a need that the Flyers had. But if we look at the deal, just looking at the two players, it's not clear that Ristolainen's a better player. If you particularly look at the advanced metric crowd, they don't like him. And granted, I think there was a lot of emotional baggage attached to the Ghost situation that kind of unnecessarily and unfairly fell on Haig as some kind of, as the straw man for the Ghost people to beat on. There is some, I guess, realistic evaluations that do call into question who the better player is. Haig, I think, was probably more solid defensively, less likely to headhunt, less likely to take a cheap boarding call or tripping. Haig is not really all that offensively talented. The Flyers, when they got him to the AHL, broke him down from a guy that was supposed to be a puck-moving offensive player into the Haig that we see today, which is simple plays out of the zone, try to play good defense. So there is a contingent of the fan base that, maybe rightfully so, thinks Ristolainen is not as good as Haig. On the positive, Ristolainen is right-handed. It addresses a weakness that we had. So if we're looking at magnitude here, we look at cap next after the players. If we say it's even, or Haig is slightly better, or Ristolainen slightly better, whatever side you come out on, you then look at the cap. The Flyers ate almost another $4 million in salary on this. Is Ristolainen $4 million a year better than Haig? as someone that likes Ristolainen and even liked Haig, I don't think so. I think with the free agent market of available defensemen, right-handers in particular, I think that money could have been better spent elsewhere. Then you pile on to that the fact that we had to give up a first and second round pick. This is a disaster. This is a pretty awful trade. To put it in perspective, Jake Bean, who, granted, some of the luster has come off since his draft year, who played for Carolina, was traded away for a second round pick. I think I'd rather have Haig, another $2 million in cap space, and our first round pick, and get Bean. But, again, Fletcher has been pretty good at piecing players together to get positive results. So we'll wait and see. But from a value perspective, this is a pretty bad trade. And I don't think there's any way you could argue it otherwise. If there is a silver lining in this, we do have to take into account the Buffalo effect. That Ristolainen played his whole career there, and there is something to an organization that can manage and take borderline generational talents like Dahlin, like Eichel, and turn them into perennial losers. I mean, immaterial in this league, which is nuts. Those guys are way too talented. So clearly there's something up in Buffalo. And to put it another way, at the end of this coming season, when we look at the stats, would it surprise anyone if Ristolainen put up way better numbers than Haig? I wouldn't be surprised. I think it'd be more surprising if it went the other way around, that Haig suddenly became a 25-minute-a-night defenseman and put up 50 points. I'd be shocked. But, we'll see. Maybe we just need to wash the Buffalo stink off of Ristolainen, and he'll really turn into a great pickup. The last trade I want to talk about, of course, is the Voracek-Atkinson trade. And this was, at least in my view, a good trade for the Flyers. Voracek, I felt when he came to the Flyers, was probably a top 5 talent in the league. Other players have come in. He's gotten older. He's a little bit slower. So he's probably not there now. He's certainly not there now. But, he was, and if you look at physical tools and physical talent, how he can skate, how he defends the puck with his body, the strength that he uses, his ability to pass, his vision, his creativity, his shot, hands down, a much better player than Cam Atkinson. But, with Voracek, you always felt like there was a little bit more he could give. At least I felt that way, that of this great talent, only about 60% of it translated on the ice. And he was still super productive, racked up assists left and right. Atkinson is almost the exact opposite of that. Atkinson is, 5'8". He was a 5th-round draft pick. And, if you line him up next to Jake, there is probably not one skills competition that he would win. Maybe shooting, but even then, I think Jake would probably take him. It's just that Jake never shot. Well, what Atkinson does bring is a couple of things. The first one is that he loves to shoot. Absolutely loves to score and knows that shooting is required to do that. Last season, he had, I think, 158 shots for Columbus, which led the team. This is a team with Patrick Laine on it. So that's another guy who is, not afraid to shoot. So this shot rate would have led the Flyers as well, that 158 shots, beating JVR, who I think had 154. Voracek only had 104 shots last season. That's 2 a game. Atkinson is a full shot more during the game. So the fact that he loves to shoot and wants to score is something missing from a pass-first Flyers team. And he may wind up having a career year in shots because all these setup guys will just be feeding him, and he doesn't care. He has no conscience. He's going to let it go. The second thing about Atkinson that is different from Jake and something that I think will help the Flyers Is his work off the puck? Now, people may